Ghost Pokémon have always had a special place in my heart. Creepy creatures of all shapes and sizes that span the cute to cool spectrum flawlessly. One, however, always rose above the rest. Pokémon 563, Cofagrigus. From my first ever foray into the world of Pokémon as a kid, he has remained one of my absolute favourites in the entire franchise, even if a wide-eyed cat would eventually take his top spot. And much like I did with Esper, to celebrate this shifty sarcophagus, I'm going to chronicle the entire history of Cofagrigus across the Pokémon franchise and present it to you in the form of this short piece of propaganda.
Wait a minute! Are you?
Now, I'm gonna be honest, I am not the perfect person to tell you the origins of Cofagrigus. Luckily, I know someone who is. My Egypt-obsessed fiancé and editor, Oddorr. Take it away.
Let's get straight to business. Cofagrigus is, at face value, a sarcophagus. These are basically coffins that ancient Egyptians used. You probably grew up being told that only pharaohs could afford them, but to be honest with you, if you had the right money, anyone could afford one. Once mummification was all said and done, the body would be placed inside the first of multiple layers of sarcophagi, kind of like a cooler, better babushka doll. On the outermost layer, typically hieroglyphs would adorn the sarcophagus, depicting things involving rebirth and protection from the harsh afterworld, which would include the person's name so it could be carried on to the gods for identification. The reason Cofagrigus' arms sprawl out of him is actually really interesting to me though, mostly because it also links in with his Pokemon lore of forgetting who he was when he was alive. Having his arms sprawl out of him could actually show that he was stripped of a part of the soul the ancient Egyptians called the Ba, which is the part of the soul that can travel between the land of the dead and the living. The Ba would typically hover over the corpse after death, usually to check in on family and make sure their body was still safe from grave robbers. But it could also travel back to the afterlife to hang out with the gods when it was all done. However, since our coughed up boy has forgotten its human memories, it might actually just be trapped on this mortal plane, forced to just be with its rotting corpse forever. Which, if you go by the ancient Egyptian belief system of curses, this could lead to Cofagrigus turning unsuspecting trainers into mummies thinking of self-defense. Our sprawled out guy is just stuck here on Earth, not knowing who it is, why it's here, or how to fix the whole situation. There is a ton more to it, but you're here for fun Pokemon. So if you are interested in what I've just said, I worked on a video all about mummification here. I'm gonna go leave now and have a really deep think about all the Cofagricuses I've come across that are just trapped here eternally.
Wow, that got dark. Who would have thought you could stuff so much lore in one coffin? Now, with that little history lesson out of the way, we can get into even more history. Starting with...
I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was.
Let's take it back all the way to my first ever Pokemon game, the greatest to ever do it, Black and White. Deep in the desert road route lies Relic Castle, a ruin reclaimed by the elements full of sinkholes and housing Game Moth in the depths. More importantly, this is the first place you are able to come across Cofagrigus in the wild, along with its baby form Yamask. While I can't recall my reaction to first laying eyes upon this masterpiece, I have to imagine it went something like... Cofagrigus' shiny is interesting, taking on a pink and white look so stark that it would make Frank Ocean write a song about it. Outside of the wild, Cofagrigus finds a worthy place on some mighty teams. First of all, the Elite Four member Chantel makes good use of one on her ghostly gang, placing him where he belongs at the pinnacle of a trainer's journey, and the B-plot of that journey represents two, with Team Plasma's leader Getsis also sporting his spooky sarcophagus to give him the best efforts of taking you down. What better than a tomb to use to put you in a tomb after all? Going into the sequels, Chantel and Getsis would remain loyal to our boy, but oddly enough, a change does come from Relic Castle. No longer letting you catch a Cofagrigus straight out, rather needing to evolve it. Can't complain too much though, it's worth having to put a bit of work in for this icon. And we continue trending downwards, much like the quality overall, heading into X and Y, where there is absolutely no natural way to get a Cofagrigus without the use of trading or transfer tools. To be fair, this game did give us Esper, so something had to give to balance out that power. One potential source for that trading, in fact, is our next pair of games, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, bringing the return of the ever-elusive Mirage locations, and the one we care about, Mirage Cave. As you may have figured, after a bit of a break, this gives us a place to catch a wild Cofagrigus plain and simple, even if the location doesn't always exist. Sadly, the drought would return in Alola, ironic given the island setting, though luckily with a bit of trading you could send one over from lands afar. Life was good. That was, until the British arrived.
The British are coming! The British are coming!
Pokemon Sword and Shield brought us Galarian Yamask, an intriguing concept as a fan of this freaky old slab. I grabbed one and leveled it up and nothing.
Let's go gambling!
Okay, maybe a stone.
Aw, dang it.
Trading?
Aw, dang it.
Friendship?
Aw, dang it.
Oh man, this thing is special. I knew I had to Google what to do to evolve it. Careful not to ruin the surprise of the majesty to come. Okay, how was I supposed to guess that? Okay, damage done, rocks located. The time has finally come to see Galarian Cofagrigus. Who the fuck are you? Well, dear viewer, this is Runerigus, and I hate him. He crushed my dreams. He's infinitely worse than Cofagrigus in every way, and he didn't even take up the Rock Ghost pairing, which remains unused to this day. Can you do anything right, you waste of a Pokédex slot? Even Corsola got a cooler evolution than you, and it had to die to get it. Get out of my sight. It is a blessing that your evolution is as convoluted as it is. Nobody should wind up with your sorry ass without having to waste their time first. You are scum, Runerigus. I can only hope the rest of the Switch generation makes up for your crimes. Oh, come on! Fine then. If the main series doesn't want to put in the effort, I know just where to look instead. Let's take a look at the
Pokemon 2 Wonders Beyond. Something's gone terribly wrong.
We'll get the ball rolling with the Pokemon Rumble series, which sees Cofagrigus in a brand new form. Amputated! But that didn't stop him from shambling around the cave area of Pokemon Rumble Blast's rugged falls. A slight deviation from the ruins of old, but hey, at least there's rocks. We'll step up the status going into Rumble U, where he can be found at the Sealed Door, or more specifically, the Place to Return to. While sounding immensely dramatic, I'd argue it's fitting as fellow favourite of mine from Gen 5, Black Kyurem, also features as a boss in that very area. Two legends together, as it should be. And the Rumble Ball keeps on rolling into Rumble World, where a boss Cofagrigus can be found in the Withered Cemetery in the Distortion Land. Possibly the most apt place he's been so far, what with being a tomb doll, and where better than a place named after the home of the God of Ghosts itself. And rounding out Rumble with Rumble Rush, he's also in the Pinsir, Gengar, and Buzzwole Seas, vaguely alluding to Cofagrigus being an honorary bug type. Good for him, I suppose. Right, enough of that, let's up the poly count some, and get to a game I've wanted to speak about for a while now. Pokepark 2 Wonders Beyond. PK Peak 2 Pika's Peakond features... PK Peak 2 Pika's Peakond features the dreamy, distortion world-like dimension known as Wish Park. Upon first entering, you learn about these drugged-up cupcakes making various Pokemon all dazed. And who is serving them? None other than our boy along with a factory full of rats and whatever Ordino is. Sadly, this does make him an antagonist and therefore you've got to fight him to progress, but I think we shouldn't be criminalizing a small business, and I hope to see his bakery open soon. Also, he walks like this, and I just think that's really funny, and wanted to show you. Not beating the bug allegations, that's for sure. Next, let's just rattle off a few that there's little more to say than that he's there. Pokemon Troze, Shuffle, Duel, and Pokédex 3D Pro all indeed feature a Cofagrigus, which is just wonderful to know, really helps me sleep at night. I can also now check Pokédex 3D Pro off my list of things I wanted to talk about for some reason, but had no valid reason to do so. And last but not least, everybody's favourite isekai, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, beginning with Gates to Infinity. Befitting of such a special boy, Cofagrigus has become an entrepreneur in this game, running Post Town's Glorious Gold. And this ain't your average corner shop. No, this tendrilled tomb deals in gold bars for items, so if you want yourself a mega donut, you'd better have stacks to show. And wouldn't you know it, the franchise would be successful enough to branch out to Super Mystery Dungeon's Lively Town as well, which when alongside the cake business from Pokepark, gives us a likely candidate for richest Pokemon in the franchise, which would mean he'd get the guillotine, but normal moves don't hit ghosts. What luck. Oh, and since I totally forgot about it and I'm going back to add this section, Phoebe and Cofagrigus appear as a sync pair in Pokemon Masters EX. Why not Chantel? And on the subject of mobile games I forgot about, Pokemon Go of course features Yamaska Cofagrigus as obtainable, but also the best outfit this series has ever and will ever produce. Look at this and tell me it shouldn't be strutting down a runway or shambling down a dingy corridor towards you. Incredible work by Niantic. And speaking of masks, this one appears in Detective Pikachu. It barely counts, but it counts. And with this venture capitalistic side tangent out of the way, we wrap up all of the side games Cofagrigus appears in to date. Sadly, much like Esper, it wasn't every single one. Meaning of course that Pokemon Art Academy, Pokemon Tournament, Pokemon Quest, Pokemon Cafe Remix, Pokemon Unite, New Pokemon Snap, Detective Pikachu Returns, and Pokemon Sleep are all to be purchased in a merger with Glorious Gold Studios, with all publishing rights going to Mr. C. Grigus, and will have their mistakes rectified in a remastered collection coming to all current-gen consoles. That, or they can just get in the bin. But enough of this. There's been too much media going on, too many digital things. I need something physical and flat, which means it's time to get into... Once again, I know nothing of the strategic potential of Pokemon TCG, nor would I like to, so I am donning my art critic hat for this segment and giving you my professional opinion on these here expensive rectangles. We'll kick it off with Noble Victories, and this piece right here. It sure is a Cofagrigus with a cool ambience in the background, but his stubby proportions and neon colour scheme don't quite do it for me. Let's go 4 out of 10. Another Noble Victories entrant up next, and sadly not much better. The jagged arms and domineering pose are cool, but something about it looks rough. Not sure if it's the strange background or the weirdly harsh shadows, maybe even his pale fingertips, but it's another miss I'm afraid. 3 out of 10. In my notes for Dark Explorers, I just wrote the word "what," and I'm not entirely sure why. This looks pretty neat. The front arm is a little fucked up, but the colouring in this is nice, and the advancing vibe is cool. Kinda gives me a vibe of graffiti you'd see in the Castelia City sewers. I like this guy. 6.5 out of 10. We get another double billing from Plasma Freeze, starting with this fellow right here. I think I used to have this one and have since lost it to time, and I have to say I do quite like it. The blue outline is a cool touch, the shinier 3D looking style, and that slight up tilt giving the face a really ominous look. We're getting better. 7.5 out of 10. And its brother from the same set keeps up the good work. The devil to the last one's angel, the harsh shadows on this one really do it favours more than they did on Notable Victories, and the 2016 meme glow on its eyes work better than that comparison might suggest. Maybe not quite up to the former, but it is still a respectable 6.5 out of 10. Moving on now to Team Plasma's gift, and hey, that's just the same guy again! All they did was make the background a little darker. And you know what, it works. 7 out of 10. Lost Thunder gives us this nice, washed-out, sandy-looking piece befitting of Cofagrigus' themes. Obviously, this is also a unique angle to see him at, but any reminder of that funny little walk he does is a welcome one for me, and the environment adds that nice little finishing touch. 7.5 out of 10. We draw to a close with our first EX card, courtesy of Paradox Rift. Interesting given his absence from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but we keep the upside down theme going with another solid entrant. The side wisps are cool, the reaching foreground hand and the smudgy style form a great ambience. Great stuff. 8 out of 10. The alt art, however, what the fuck is this? It seems to be a style shared by a good few cards in this set, but it's really not doing it for me. Seeming weirdly smoothened and rigid, which might be the point, but regardless, misses the mark in my opinion. 2 out of 10. And for now, that's where this segment closes out, bringing us back to media in motion. Let's head on over to
Cofagrigus, the Coffin Pokémon!
Since neither medium has a massive amount of representation, I've decided to bundle this into one segment. Cofagrigus' anime debut was in Explorers of the Hidden Ruins, naturally a part of the series Black and White. This episode sees the main trio along with Juniper's dad, Cedric, desecrate some ancient ruins in search of supposedly where the ancient hero met Zekrom one time. This ruin is home to the Golden Darkstone, a name so oxymoronic and dumb that it ought to be laughed out of the room at any future meetings of Ancient Artifacts Anonymous. It is also guarded by a Sigilif, and more importantly, its fair share of Cofagrigus. You can count on these guys to go for the gold, let me tell ya. And we would have to wait all the way until Pokemon Journeys for their next appearance, where they did indeed return to Unova and, of course, visit more ruins. Would it kill these guys to be in a building that's still standing? Naturally, the Cofagrigus jump our protagonists, and it turns out that they had something stuck inside them, causing them to buckle slightly under the weight. Onto Manga, there are indeed generic Cofagrigus that show up throughout the Pocket Monsters BW run of the series, but with little more to say on them, let's talk about some special ones. A criminal accomplice up first, Gorm of the Seven Sages takes the Nakreen City Museum's Dragonite skeleton hostage alongside his own spooky boy, but luckily both are defeated by Black and the worst gym leader, Berg. And of course, Getsis features alongside his, debuting in the chapter The Power of Dreams. And for our most unique entry, we come to Reburst and the aptly named Burst technique. And much like in the Unova sequels, this is straight up Pokemon Fusion, only this time it's with humans, a phenomenon seldom seen since Bill all those years ago. And that brings us to a character named Rush. Rush has merged with the Cofagrigus. Look at him go. He does not have his own page on Bulbapedia, so I can only imagine he is an absolutely pivotal character to the narrative and will be appearing in Pokemon Masters EX in the near future. And that wraps up all of the media, so if I have now converted you to a die-hard follower of the Church of Cofagrigus, first of all, remember to subscribe, but also let's look into what you can use to rep your loyalty.
Pokemon are everywhere. They're invading.
Starting small, this little ghost-type pin set includes Cofagrigus, Yamask, as well as Shuppet and Banette for some reason. It's in the Dreamworld art style, which is always nice to see, and the gold accents are a nice touch for him for sure. And the same design is also featured on this pair of keychains. If you prefer your keychains vaguely shaped like the letter X, however, might I interest you in this as an alternative. Moving on to figures, we kick it off with this hauntingly cool little diorama featuring fellow ghost type who I love, Trevenant. Also an orphan, a bunny and a rat, as a side note. There's this complete atrocity from Tommy, where he seems to have some webbing going on with his limbs, likely for better structural integrity in the mouth of a toddler, but nonetheless rancid. It was around here I had to Google a few things, taking the Esper video for inspiration, looking for things like Cofagrigus pencil case, mostly as a joke, but I stumbled upon a treasure trove courtesy of Mummy Ducks on Weebly.com. And with their permission, I'll be referencing their pictures for the next few, as there's a good amount of obscure stuff. The first of which is these wonderfully stubby little figures. I love the one with the hands squeezed in most, but both are excellent finds. Next up, a couple of oddballs, this jewellery stand and tin. Both are solid, albeit the tin looking a little odd in the eyes, but maybe that's just me. Either way, good for keeping track of your valuables. And we have another tin resembling how Cofagrigus would look in your party in Gen 5, a sight I hope you're all plenty familiar with. If you've got yourself the Cofagrigus cards we covered earlier, then what better to keep them safe than some gorgeous Cofagrigus card sleeves, with some awesomely ominous art that more than makes up for some of the earlier stinkers. Oh, why not? 9 out of 10. Next up is something called Batrio, little tokens used for playing a Pokemon arcade game, and supposedly this is all of them. These are neat little renders of the same model in various poses, perfectly passable for what they do. And we'll lightning round through some smaller bits which, while they don't offer much to say, are absolutely worth showing off. We've got stickers, a Pog, a poster featuring the evil teams' finest, a page of a 2011 calendar, oddly enough for November, various non-TCG cards, charms including this really cool sprite one, papered Jackie which appear to have been some kind of Korean game, and even various bits I can't quite identify but which help add up to one hell of a collection. Mummy Ducks, from one collector to another, I salute you. And how about we round it out with something soft? Well, as most do, Cofagrigus has a sitting cutie plush which you know I own and display proudly. I absolutely adore him. But don't fear, as there's also this one with joints in the arms, which is only a little horrifying. But hey, if you want to make him do the walk I love so much, this is the one for you. Mummy Ducks comes in one last time with a flat-armed friend, and boy is that just a work of art. Evidently an early plush, but it has decent charm to it, even if it looks like it's been locked away in the ruins for a few decades too many. And the pièce de résistance is none other than this bad boy. This right here is Hug You Cofagrigus, who has had a double amputation in the effort to keep you comfortable in any chair you may wish. This is quite a new and peculiar piece of merch, also coming in Pawmot and Mr. Mime flavourings if you prefer, and I feel serves as a perfect capstone to this celebration of my second favourite of these silly little creatures I love so much. Did you once have a Cofagrigus on your team? Think we'll see a Mega in ZA? or just want to share some love, well, you can do so in the comments below. And while you're down there, remember to drop a sub or become a member to get videos a day early, among other fun perks. I'd like to thank Oddorr for the help they did with their segment, Mummy Ducks for being gracious enough to allow me to use their images, Matt H and Chloramite for being members, and of course, you for watching. Have a good night.